Question number 8. Solve the quadratic equation by completing the square. So, in step 1, we have x squared minus 7x minus 98, which is equal to 0. So, the first thing we need to do is take a look at the leading coefficient. It's a 1. So we do not need to divide every term by that, because dividing everything by 1 is going to make it stay the same. So now what we want to do is we're going to isolate the variable terms on the left side of the equation. So we have x squared minus 7x, and then we're going to add the 98 to the other side of the equation. Okay, and then in order for us to complete the square, what we're going to do is now we're going to add an n to both sides of the equation. And then we need to find out, what does n equal? Well, n is equal to 1/2 of the value of the middle term b, and then squaring it. So if we take 1/2, negative 7, and we're going to square that. So that becomes negative 7 over 2. And when we square that number, we're going to get positive 49 over 4. So in step 3, we're going to write this as x squared minus 7x. And we got 98 here. And so we're going to replace n now to be plus 49 over 4. Plus 49 over 4. So now what we want to do is we need to factor this third step. Now if you take a look here, the number that we had to square to get 49 over 4 was negative 7/2. So that number is always going to be listed here as a factor, because x minus 7 over 2 squared is going to be factored to give you that perfect square trinomial. Okay, and then over here, what we want to do is we need to find a common denominator between those two numbers. Well, the common denominator is 4. Okay, so we know that 4 times 1 is going to give you 4. 49 times 1 is 49. 1 times 4 is going to give you 4. Let's go ahead and multiply 98 times 4. And that gives you 392. So now we're going to add the right side of the equation. So we have x minus 7 over 2 squared. Okay, and then we have 392 plus 49, which is going to equal 441 over 4. Okay, now in step number 6, we're going to use the square root property. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So we have x minus 7 over 2 squared, and that's going to equal the square root of 441 divided by the square root of 4. And remember that we need the plus or minus. Now, is 441 a perfect square? Well, let's take a look. Let's take the square root of 441 and let's see if that's a perfect square. Well, it is. It becomes 21. So, we know that now on the left side we have x minus 7 over 2, and that's going to equal plus or minus, well, the square root of 441 is 21. Square root of 4 is 2. Now we need to solve for x. So we have x, we need to add 7/2 to both sides. Remember, it has to go in the front of the plus or minus sign. So 7 over 2 plus or minus 21 over 2. So we're going to have two solutions. We have 7 over 2 plus 21 over 2. And then we have 7 over 2 minus 21 over 2. Well, this is going to equal 28 over 2, which is equal to 14. This is going to equal negative 14 over 2, which is equal to negative 7. So therefore, here are our two solutions, 14 and negative 7.